Please be seated. If I told you that an ancient Jewish legal compendium was a good place to find great contemporary spiritual and moral advice, you might think I was pulling your leg, right? The books of Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy are not ones that most Christians spend an awful lot of time with. And if we do, truthfully, once you get past the escape from Egypt, it is a slog. Exact dimensions of the temple, detailed descriptions of what priests are supposed to wear, case law about oxen who accidentally gore people versus oxen who habitually gore people, what to eat, how to plant your fields, everything from menstruation to tattoos, sacrificial rites to sexual relations, patrimony to property rights. It is all in there, and it is generally more stupefying than it is edifying. And if most of us Christians ignore most of the Torah, we never even come close to looking at things like the Mishnah or the Talmud, which are additional collections of Jewish oral tradition and religious law and commentary on the Torah. But that is precisely where this great contemporary moral and spiritual advice is found. Buried in the Mishnah is an ancient ritual so profound that it has shaped Rabbi Sharon Bros's entire rabbinate. And she has recently written a book about it called The Amen Effect. Highly recommended. Right in the middle of an elaborate and incredibly detailed description of the temple in Jerusalem as it stood at the time of Jesus is a description of a pilgrimage ritual that took place apparently several times a year, when thousands of Jews would come to Jerusalem, ascend to the Temple Mount, enter the enormous plaza where the money changers were, and turn right and begin a procession counterclockwise. Sort of like if you've ever seen pilgrims circling the Kaaba in Mecca during the Hajj. Okay? But if you were someone, quote, to whom something awful had happened, if you were sick or grieving or an outcast, or if you just were not living your best life at the moment, instead of turning right, you turned left and began your procession counterclockwise, against the current. So all of your interior feelings of struggle, of adversity, are actually acted out in every step you take against the torrent of people whose lives are going well. That's a brilliant liturgy in and of itself right there, but it gets even better. Because every person going right, counterclockwise, was required to look into the eyes of every person moving left and pause and ask them, what happened? What's your story? Why does your heart ache? Tell me about your pain. And when the person moving left told them, someone died, I lost my job, I'm just a wreck, whatever it was, whenever the person left named their affliction, the person moving right would receive it and offer a blessing. May the Holy One comfort you. May you be wrapped in the embrace of this community. You are not alone. Over and over and over again, as people from the left met the people from the right. Rabbi Brous says that 2,000 years ago, the rabbis constructed a system of ritual engagement built on a profound psychological insight. That when you are suffering, when you feel hemmed in by darkness and all you want to do is self-isolate, you show up. You don't self-isolate. You don't stay home with your broken heart or just pretend that you're okay, because you're not. Instead, she says, you need to root your suffering in a context of care and move toward the people who you know will hold you. And on your good days, on days when life really is a bowl of cherries and everything really is coming up roses, on the days you do have resources to share, you show up then too. You bear witness, or as she says, you bear witness. You don't turn away from others' suffering. You stop, you listen, and you affirm, I see you. You are not alone. I wonder if Paul might have had this pilgrimage ritual in mind when he wrote to the Corinthians, to the Judeans I became as a Judean, to the weak I became weak. In other words, I have been to the temple and I have turned right. And I have also been to the temple and I have turned left. I have been hurting and in need of blessing from others. And I have been hale and hearty and been the one who needed to be a blessing to others, to see them and hold their pain, if only briefly. See, by claiming to be all things to all people, Paul is not boasting about some mercurial capacity to shapeshift into whatever form is best suited to gaining the upper hand. He's not Loki, after all. He's talking about simply meeting people where they are and joining them as part of this sacred circle. The stories about Jesus healing, those are miracle stories only on the surface level. At a deeper level, those stories are always about restoring someone to the community, bringing them back into the sacred circle. There is a timeless wisdom in entering the sacred circle, writes Rabbi Brous. This is, she says, on some fundamental level, what it means to be human. Today you walk from left to right. Tomorrow it will be me. I hold you now, knowing that eventually you will hold me. And every gesture of recognition marries love, humility, vulnerability, and sacred responsibility. This ancient and profound wisdom, she says, runs counter to all of the normative messaging of our culture. But we don't need to save someone who is suffering. We just need to accompany them. And sometimes the holiest work, she says, is not to pray them into the light, but instead to join them in the dark. Our task as friends and as a community is not necessarily to repair each other's broken hearts, to heal or to save or to distract or, God forbid, to cheer up. We really just need to be. So as you go out into your lives this week, remember this ancient wisdom. Remember this circle of care, right at the center of this most holy place. And in the words of Rabbi Brous, when your instinct is to avoid or deny, don't look away. When you're inclined to false hope or good cheer, instead choose sincerity and quiet presence. When you think you have the answers, ask a question instead. And above all, remember that even when there is no bright new dawn, there are still moments of goodness and laughter and light even in the dark of night. Remain in this circle of care, turning right and turning left. Receive blessings, give blessings, and expand this circle out into the world. Amen.